Good morning, TK. If you notice, I'm filming over at my desk today so I can be by all the beautiful drawings that you guys have made me because I miss you so much. We're going to go ahead and get started with some reading today. We're going to be working with our Country Mouse and the City Mouse book, the City Mouse and the Country Mouse. Sometimes I mix them up. So I need you to go ahead and get your mini book out. Today we're going to be hearing the story and then answering questions that are going to be on the back cover of your book. So if you notice on the back cover, we have a page that on your book looks like, oh my goodness, where's mine? This. It's going to look like this. That's what we're going to be working on today after we hear the story one more time. So let's go over our objective. I have my objective written right here. And it says, I can answer questions about a story. I have some tools that we're going to need to use today to help us with our objective. Our first is our ears. We're going to be hearing our story, so I'm going to put our ears next to the word story. All right, so we have our ears up here next to our word story, which begins with our letter of the week, story. I also think we're going to be needing to use our brain today because we are going to be thinking about answering questions. So in order to answer questions, we're going to need to use our brain. And the way that we're going to be answering these questions is by circling or underlining the answer to the questions. So we're going to need to use our hands as well. So I'm also going to put that next to answer questions. All right, we're going to be able to get started now. So make sure you have your books.
When you hear this sound, turn the page. Look at the picture on the cover of your storybook while you listen to the story of the City Mouse and the Country Mouse.
Once upon a time, there was a mouse who lived in the country. She had a cozy home in a hole under a big tree. The Country Mouse worked from morning till night, gathering nuts and berries and crumbs and storing them away. Her neat shelves held rows of stout jars and plump sacks full of this and that. And so the Country Mouse was content. Though her home was not fancy, it was warm and comfortable. And though her food was plain, she always had enough to eat, even during the winter.
Now turn to the page with the brown star. Look at the picture across both pages.
One day the Country Mouse had a visitor. It was her cousin who lived in the city. "Welcome to my little house," said the Country Mouse happily. "Little? Indeed, yes. Your home is little," sniffed the City Mouse. "Why, your entire house would fit into my second-best bedroom." The Country Mouse said, "Won't you sit down and have a bite to eat?" She gave the City Mouse a plate filled with her tastiest nuts, juiciest berries, and choicest crumbs. "Oh, my dear," exclaimed the City Mouse, "you poor thing. How can you stand to eat these pitiful, dried-up crumbs? They're not fit for an ant to eat." "But I gathered them myself," replied the Country Mouse proudly. "My stars," gasped the City Mouse. "Do you mean you had to work to get this food? In the city, a feast of delicious food is spread out for me every day, 3 times a day. You must come back to the city and live with me. There you'll see what real food is like."
Now turn the page. Look at the page with the yellow star.
And so the Country Mouse went back to the city with her cousin. The City Mouse certainly did have a fancy home. It was so large that the Country Mouse could hear her own little footsteps echoing down the long hallways. After they inspected all the beautiful big rooms, the City Mouse said, "Now, come along, my dear. We'll go have some dinner.
Now look at the picture of the table.
The two mice crept along a dark tunnel. And when she stepped into the bright room at the end of the tunnel, the country mouse blinked her eyes in amazement. She had never seen so much food in her life. "Oh," she cried, "how wonderful!" "Shh," snapped her cousin. "You must be very, very quiet. Eat anything you like, but don't make any noise."
Now turn to the page with the purple star in the corner. Look at the picture across both pages.
But just when the country mouse began to eat some cheese, there was a terrible snarl. A tremendous cat came flying through the air towards the mice with a loud meow. Behind the cat came an angry woman, shouting and waving a big spoon. Behind the woman came two dogs, barking ferociously. "Run for your life!" shrieked the city mouse. The two mice dashed across the floor and ducked into a mouse hole.
Now look at the little picture on the right side of the page.
"We'll wait until things quiet down," panted the city mouse. "Then we can sneak back for more food." "Not I," said the country mouse with a deep breath. "I'm going back to my home in the country. I'd rather work hard and eat my crumbs in peace than eat fancy food and always be afraid." So the country mouse went back to her comfortable, cozy home under the big tree in the country. It might not be fancy, but it was safe and peaceful. And the country mouse lived happily ever after.
Now turn the page and look at the back of your storybook.
All right, now we're on the back cover, the very back cover.
Pick up your brown crayon.
All right, I've got mine.
I am going to ask you some questions. When you hear this sound, your teacher will pause the CD, so you have time to mark your answer. Then your teacher will turn the CD back on. Look at the three pictures next to the yellow rectangle.
So here's
Which
the yellow
picture
rectangle.
shows what happened first? Draw a line under the picture that shows what happened first.
All right, so we're going to be drawing a line under what happened first. So that's going to be underlining. So let's look at our three pictures here next to our yellow rectangle. I see we have the city mouse and the country mouse in the city mouse's little hole here. And based on what their faces look like, they don't look super happy. They look pretty sad. Then in the middle, we have the city mouse and the country mouse looking at a bowl of fruit and nuts. And the city mouse looks pretty sad. And then in the last picture, we have the city mouse and the country mouse in the city mouse's home, and it looks like they're excited. So which one of these things happened first? If we think about the beginning of the story, first, the setting in the beginning was at the country mouse's house. First, we were at the country mouse's house. And if you remember, they were eating some of the country mouse's food, and the city mouse didn't like it. So let's look back at our back cover and see if any of these pictures match what happened at the beginning of the story. Because we're thinking, which one happened first? The picture in the middle shows what happened first. It shows the country mouse and the city mouse eating food at the country mouse's house, and the city mouse didn't like it. So I'm going to underline that picture because that is what happened first. And when I do my underline, I'm starting at the left side and I just made a straight line across, just one straight line across. I don't have to color it in. I'm not making a circle, just one straight underline from left to right. Let's hear the next question. Actually, I think we're going to hear for right first. Let's hear if our answer is correct.
You should have drawn a line under the picture of the country mouse giving food to the city mouse.
Yeah, we got it.
That is what happened first. Which picture shows what happened last? Put a circle around the picture that shows what happened last.
Okay, we're looking at the same three pictures now, but this time we're going to be circling the picture that shows what happened last. So let's think about these pictures again. So we already know that this shows us what happened first. Now the first picture over here is of the city mouse and the country mouse, and they're in the city mouse's little mouse hole, and they look pretty upset. You can notice that their faces look sad. They kind of look like they have their hands on their head. They don't know what to do maybe. But in this picture, they look pretty excited, and they're in the city mouse's big fancy house. So at the end of the story, how were the mice feeling? Were they feeling excited or are they feeling upset? Let's look back at the end of the story and see if we can tell. So I'm going to go back to the last page of my story and see how they were feeling. So if we look at this last picture, we can see that the city mouse and the country mouse looked pretty upset. They've got their hands on their head, their faces are showing that they're really sad, upset, and it's because they were just chased by the cat and the lady and the dog. So now if we go back to our back cover, our job was to circle the picture that shows what happened last. So this picture here shows us what happened at the very end of the story, what happened last. So I'm going to circle that picture. Now let's see if our answer is correct.
You should have put a circle around the picture that shows the country mouse telling the city mouse that she is going back to her home.
There we go.
That is what happened last. At the end of the story, the country mouse decided she did not want to stay in the city.
She didn't like it.
Now look at the picture of the country mouse next to the black rectangle.
Now we're going to look at this
Did
picture.
the country mouse like her little home in the country? If she did like her home in the country, circle her. If she did not like her home in the country, put an X on her.
Okay, so now we need to decide, did the country mouse like her home in the country? Remember, the country mouse lived in the country in a cozy little home. Did she like her home? If she did, then we're going to circle her. If she didn't, then we're going to put an X over her. Let's look back at the beginning of the story to help us. We can use some picture power. So I'm looking at this picture of the country mouse in her home. Based on her face here, it kind of looks like she's smiling, like she's having a good time. She has her wheat. She's got some nuts and fruit, some beautiful flowers in her home. I think that shows us that she did like her home. She did like her home in the country. We also know that at the end of the story, oops, right here, she told the city mouse that she wanted to go back to the country. She didn't like the city, but she did like the country where she lived. So I'm going to circle the country mouse, because that's what we're going to do if we think she does like her home in the country. I just made one big circle around her. Let's hear if that is correct.
You should have circled the country mouse.
Yay.
The country mouse did like her little home in the country. Now look at the picture of the city mouse next to the purple rectangle.
Here we go, right here.
Did the city mouse like the country mouse's little home? If the city mouse liked the country mouse's little home, circle the city mouse. If the city mouse did not like the country mouse's home, put an X on the city mouse.
Okay, now we need to think about if the city mouse liked the country mouse's home. So remember, at the beginning of the story, the city mouse went to visit the country mouse. The city mouse went to visit the country mouse. Now I wonder, did she like the country mouse's home? What do you think? I'm looking at her face here, and she's kind of making a bleh face. The country mouse gave the city mouse some food to eat, but the city mouse said, I don't like it here. And she was making a comment saying, your house is really small. I live in a big fancy house where I get 3 big fancy meals every day. So do you think that the city mouse liked the country mouse's home? I don't think so. So our job was, if she liked the country mouse's home, to circle the city mouse. But if she didn't like the country mouse's home, we're gonna put an X over here. So I'm gonna put 1 X over the city mouse, just like that. Just 1 X over the city mouse. And let's hear if we're correct.
You should have put an X on the city mouse.
Yay, we got it.
The city mouse did not like the country mouse's home. Now look at the picture of the country mouse next to the green rectangle. At the end of the story, did the country mouse like her cousin's home in the city? If the country mouse liked the home in the city, circle her. If the country mouse did not like the home in the city, put an X on her.
Okay, so it's asking us about the end of the story. Did the country mouse like her cousin's home in the city? Did the country mouse like to visit the city mouse's home in the city? Let's look back at the end of the story, the very end, that last little picture that we have. Does it look like the country mouse liked the city mouse's home? Based on her face, she looks pretty upset. It looks like she did not have the best experience at the city mouse's home. I remember she was saying that even though her little house in the country is small, at least she felt safe there. So she did not like going to the city mouse's home because she didn't like getting chased by the cat and the dog and the woman. So since she didn't like it, I'm going to put an X over her. So just 1 X with my brown crayon, and now we're going to check if our answer is right.
You should have put an X on the country mouse. The country mouse did not like the home in the city because she would always be afraid.
All right, good work, TK. So we answered some questions about the country mouse and the city mouse, and we're gonna keep doing some more things with this fun story. And you can also use the recording of the reading at the beginning of this video to go back and read the book later if you'd like to. And I will see you guys back here for handwriting.